The latest Doctor Who story, Lucky Day, aired on BBC iPlayer yesterday, Disney Plus, and of course the BBC. And whilst I work full time in addition to making my videos, I don't always have the time to analyse the text in a great detail that I would really like to. But it certainly was a political stomping ground that was aimed towards the right wing people, anti establishment, and an attack on streamers and content creators. Whilst the writer of the story, Pete McTighe, or McT, however it's pronounced, focused on at least making it part of the story rather than smashing us in the face with it RTD style. And what I mean by that is randomly stopping the plot to make a point and then continue as that never happened. Well, it certainly didn't meet people's expectations, this story. Hello and welcome back to Chat About It, Don't Shout About It with me, Rachel, the queen of the woke earth, crowned by one of my haters. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel, switch on the notification bells so that you know I am releasing another video. Thank you to everyone who's subscribed already. I cannot run this channel without you. Before I get into the overnight scores, I have something to say. Please do keep it respectful in the comments. Okay, I have been reading the comments and sometimes I'm extremely busy, so I will be looking at some point for some moderators. However, we are all adults, so we should all be able to debate respectfully. This is Chat About It, Don't Shout About It. We're not supposed to be shouting at each other. We're supposed to be having a friendly debate, so please do keep it respectful on both sides of the argument. And I run this channel for fun, so when I talk about the ratings, it's for fun. And I'm not painting necessarily a narrative or a plot point when I talk about ratings. I just enjoy talking about them. For anyone who also thinks that I have said that the show should be cancelled, well, I don't believe that to be true unless you can find a statement that I have made in past videos where it contradicts myself. However, if it does contradict me, then I have also potentially changed my mind. I can do that. I am a human being. I have, though, always specified that it has entered into cancellation territory, possible cancellation territory, I should say. But I have maintained that the show should go on hiatus and return with a new producer, not showrunner, and a vast array of writers so that we can get a variety of stories. I have also stated that should Disney pull out, I don't see really why the BBC would be interested in continuing with it. They may go looking for another streamer, or they may work on a mega reduced budget. However, the latter may not be feasible. We do not know what's going on with them at the moment. Okay, so I have this week's overnight results here from Doctor Who TV on the screen and Ratings UK from X. One says 1.5 and the other says 1.51 million in the overnights. Now, when they release the overnights, they tend to round it to the closest number, and actually they do that with the consolidations as well. However, you know, this, be it 1.5 or 1.51, they're not great. They are the lowest in history. Yes, this does count towards the final 7-day figure. It is only from the terrestrial overnight viewings. iPlayer, catch-up, demand, whatever you want to call it, will be added on later in the 7 days. It's down from the 1.86 million. FA Cup was on last week, so there is a speculation that the TV sets last week were left on in the pubs. It's a possibility. I don't go to the pub, so I don't know what their viewing habits are like in a pub, other than that it hosts football. This weekend is also a bank holiday, so this may be a factor as well as to why the ratings are down. I'm also going to predict the consolidation to be around 2.95 to the 3 million mark. Now, a lot of people are saying ratings don't matter. They do matter. If they didn't matter, then what is the point in making them public in the first place? Ratings do matter. It is also how they measure getting back into the public favour as well. And seeing as the BBC iPlayer is a catch-up service that does not work on minutes viewed like Disney Plus. BBC will want to get that word of mouth around and get it back up to a very good level. Doctor Who is also a money spinner for them. According to their audit, it was a top 5 earner. However, they do not specify in that audit what is classic and what is new. If you want to see the audit stuff, I do have videos that I've made on the audit with relation to Doctor Who. The question is the new stuff selling or not? And if it is not selling, then my question is, why would they have a reason to reinvest the money from the classic that is selling into the stuff that is not selling? Well, anyway, that's just a question that I thought might be reasonable to ask. Now, we cannot do a ratings video without talking about the Radio Times Shill site. This is what they had to say. The 4th episode of the latest Doctor Who aired last night on Saturday, 3rd of May on BBC One at 7:10 and has achieved an overnight audience of 1.5 million. The viewership figure isn't a consolidated one and doesn't include iPlayer, where it debuted at 8 a.m. on Saturday prior to its BBC One broadcast. I don't see the point in doing that. It should just all come out at the same time. We are the taxpayer. We are the people who pay the TV license. We should be the ones that get it first. You know what I mean? Technically, we are getting it first at 8 a.m., but only terrestrial viewers then are left out. That's not very kind now, is it? That consolidated figure, which takes into account catch-up and devices, also will be published at a later date. Of course, plenty of fans will catch the episode on iPlayer over the coming days, so while the figure doesn't paint a full picture or take into account people's streaming habits, it is the lowest overnight figure of the series so far. Now, they do add this on, and I appreciate the fact that they do add this on, okay? Saying that Lucky Day was BBC One's 3rd most watched programme on Saturday night, coming in behind Hit List Celebrities Special and Casualty, but it was a low ratings night for the channel as a whole anyway, with the shows failing to break the 2 million mark. So they do acknowledge that that night was a problematic night for the BBC. However, they didn't blame it on the weather, but they did say, of course, the fans will do this. Well, if they are interested enough to rush in and watch, then I'm sure that they will. Now, you may have got a little glimpse of this earlier, but I have here on the screen for you this. This is from the Barb. Okay, these are the people who measure the audience figures. Now, I posted something last week, it was, and I posted a selected portion of the photo, and it was apparently creating a narrative. It was a little bit suspicious. So what I'm going to have here on the screen in just a moment is last week's consolidations, because the current consolidations for the well have not been released. But let me show you how big this chart is, okay? So there's this chart, which is the orange bar chart, which gives us like the top 10, top 20, however many are on there. Okay, I haven't counted, but it gives us that information. But then you go down because there's a second one, okay? Doctor Who's not appearing on the first one, but it does appear on the second one. And this is the top 50. Look how big this is. It is humongous, and Doctor Who is sat here at number 25 right here. Okay, now if I were to take a photograph of this, a screenshot of this, this would not fit the ratio aspects of YouTube. Okay, I just want to make that perfectly clear. So I wasn't spinning it to fit a narrative. However, this will always be linked below when I mention the Barb figures. Now, let's compare it to the soaps, because people say, well, why don't you compare it to the soaps? There are multiple soaps on this list. We've got Emmerdale, EastEnders, and none of these are like the repeats. They are the daily shows. They cost about 250,000 at last look a little while ago to make, especially for EastEnders. EastEnders is on Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, and I believe, although don't quote me on this, I haven't checked, I'm just saying this off the top of my head, that some of the soaps have had reduction in their output. Now, soaps are very quick to produce. It's one shot, one shot, one shot, all set up at the same time. They film it, and they have an average of about a 6-week turnaround. So it's very quick. It's very easy. They are constantly working to get these soaps out. Doctor Who is a lot harder to produce. There's a lot more work involved in it, and it's slower in production. So anyway, I just thought I would show you that, just so you know that I wasn't skew-whiffing any of the figures. None of it is sus. It just is what it is, okay? I have this on the screen for you. This is the Mind Robber. I use this a lot. It's just fun, okay? This is just a little bit of fun. I will get back to New Who in just a moment. I just wanted to show you this is the average rating for every classic story. I know they don't compare. I know they don't, okay? All right? I've used this site for a long time. I really, really do love it. You can go and you can find all of the viewing figures for part 1, part 2, part 3 of any of the Doctor Who stories from the classic era. It's all reported that way. They didn't ever consolidate them down. We saw them individually. We're paying money to the BBC to make our programs and make good content. This is part of the TV license fee. That's how it works. So we want to know how good this is doing. So we see it broken down quite meticulously, I would say. So these ratings, they do matter. However, obviously, these do not compare, okay? And people who are comparing Battlefield Part 1 to what we got for the Robot Revolution, I'm sorry, logic, demographic, you told us that it all changed. And then when, those people who were saying that, it's doing better than Battlefield, make it make sense, okay? But yes, we've got 100,000 BC, start of the show. Okay, well, the Unearthly Child was the start of the show, but it doesn't seem to be there. But 100,000 BC, I'm guessing they're just adding it into that one. But an average of 5.9. TV was still relatively new back then. So not a lot of people knew what to expect from this show. It's a brand new show. So naturally, the figures are going to be a little bit lower. But as you can see, we've got a nice little flow going on here. And the demographics are just absolutely insane. Look at this. The Rescue, 12.5 million average. But then when people want to see something refreshed in Doctor Who, you will notice here in the colour coding that the colours start to change and it goes down. But then it gets a peak of interest again. But then it starts going back down. I find that a change in the Doctor always helps with bringing new life into the show, as does changing the producer or changing the showrunner. New Who, okay? I'm just using that as an example. But it does add new life. And then we get to the War Games. It goes down to 4.9. They didn't really know what they were going to do at that point, whether they were going to bring in a new Doctor or if it was going to be cancelled. Don't quote me on that one, though. I'm not entirely sure. I wasn't born then. However, as you can see, it goes back up and it gets good and it gets fantastic. Tom Baker comes in and look at these sky-high ratings. We get to City of Death, 14.5 million in the average. But then, suddenly, we have a drop-off in season 18, series 18, excuse me. And this is Tom Baker's last series before he regenerates in Logopolis. And the reason why I believe this is at its lowest point is because things were starting to affect him and it was starting to show in his performance and his portrayal of the Doctor. Well, he stayed too long. It wasn't what it was, okay? Now, Peter Davison takes over, it goes back up, and it's pretty consistent. It does not drop below the 6 million mark. And then we have Tom Baker. Tom Baker, excuse me. Oh my goodness, I just insulted my favourite Doctor. Excuse me. Colin Baker comes in, and his first series, despite what you think of the Twin Dilemma, and that was one of the first stories I watched, despite what you think of it, it's still got a good average score rating. And his series overall does not dip below 6 million, okay? That's his first series. But then it has a brief hiatus. And this is where the problems truly start. Doctor Who was being called out for its content, how violent it was. It was all very merry White House. It had serious problems. And serious problems were going on behind the scenes. And it was nothing to do with the leader of the show. The face of the show, Colin Baker. However, he was the one that was on the chopping block for it. So they decided to try again. So they fired him. Okay? They fired him for falling outs that were nothing to do with him. Make it make sense, people. That's what they did. And they brought in Sylvester McCoy. And as you can see, no snub against the Sylvester McCoy Doctor. I like the Sylvester McCoy Doctor, especially now I've listened to more of the Big Finish stuff and listened to his performance. But it never really picked back up. This is what people were thinking. The ratings had fallen off. This was now in massive cancellation territory. We had Battlefield, 3.65. Battlefield was up against Coronation Street, which was popular, so you had to record it if you wanted to watch it. But this really was what made the show cancelable. It was cancelled. And yes, they had a hiatus. They tried to bring it back. The comeback was pretty good, 9.08 million for the TV movie, but it really wasn't until it was revived in 2005. But apparently, since 2015, though, this is where the ratings were having mega issues. So you're probably wondering what this is. This is all the data for Doctor Who since it came back in 2005. I got told that the reception is what you need it to be now, how people are receiving it. Now, the BBC have something called Audience Appreciation Index figures, and these figures have to be high. So 78, maybe 79 plus, but consistently within the 80s. Now, I am aware that Stephen Moffat was also writing something else during this time with Peter Capaldi. I would say for Doctor Who now that 5 million would be a good figure or so to avoid cancellation. None of this dropping below 4 million, which is what it's been consistently doing at the moment. But, apparently I know nothing. But, okay. Anyway, so consistently, though, for Peter Capaldi, the appreciation index figures are nearly always over 80. An exception of Sleep No More at 78. But yes, since 2015, only one dropped below with the Audience Appreciation Index figures. But his ratings were consistently above the 5 million mark in the 2015 year. And then we've got a few dips going on, but nothing really major until Jodie Whittaker comes along and Chibs takes over and does all these changes, and the appreciation starts to fall off. The ratings start to fall off and go below 5 million. And really, I think the marker should be the 5 million plus mark. Then we get flux, and this is problematic for a lot of people. And it drops below the 5 million mark. And that is dangerous, dangerous territory in this day and age where the demographics are bigger, population-wise compared to what they were with Battlefield. Okay, so that's dangerous territory. I wouldn't be surprised if the producers and the head honchos at the BBC were like, okay, why is this not working? Why is this falling below this amount? This is where you would question it. What is wrong with it? And also, probably not enough money. But, you know, what do I know about the money, really, at the end of the day? All I know is what I've seen in the audit. Then RTD comes back, he does the specials. They're pretty good, okay? Ratings are up there. It's debatable as to whether or not I would say they were well received with the people that I know, but the AI index goes back up. The reception goes back up, okay? But it goes down when we have Ncuti's first series, where it starts with the Snot Monster. And the thing is about these audience appreciation index figures for Ncuti's first series, we were told, or Doctor Who TV were told, apparently, by the some contact that they have, that the audience appreciation index figures were not going to be released. They were not doing them anymore. And then suddenly that all changed. Apparently they were revamping it. Just have to take their word for it at that. But normally where the show has consistently in the past, as last series aside, reported the AI figures, the appreciation, why are they still being held for the current series? What are they hiding? If the reception is supposed to be a warm one, if we're looking at 80 plus, 79 plus for a good reception, where are they? Can BBC answer that for me? Where have they gone? I'd like to know that. I really would like to know that. But alas, they're still not here. And we don't have a reason why. I would have thought that if the reception was warm enough, we would at least be seeing the audience appreciation index figures by now. And I really do think those ratings need to be hitting the 5 million mark, even with streaming and catch-up and demand. That's what I think, okay? That's my opinion, all right? So let's now take a look. So this is Flix Patrol. I don't have access to the USA results. It's just facts, I don't. So I looked at the worldwide results for the May 3rd and May 4th. So going to make a Star Wars reference then, but I'm not going to. And as you can see, it's the old stuff, Good American Family, Star Wars, Grey's Anatomy. Andor's back on the list, actually. That's all right. Okay, Modern Family, Bluey. Remember Bluey? This is the only reason why Disney have Doctor Who in the first place, was because of Bluey. Bluey's making the charts. Simpsons, Stolen Girl, which I do want to watch, actually. Malcolm in the Middle, Desperate Housewives, Family Guy. A lot of these are old, and it's pretty much the same for the following day on May the 4th. Yeah, a lot of this is old, except for perhaps Stolen Girl. I think that's a new one, and I'm not sure about Suspect, whether that's new or old. But these are the closest that I can get on Flix Patrol. But we do have the Nielsen's. The Nielsen's stream the results for the shows worldwide, so to speak, and they've now released the first week from when Doctor Who would have been out, and lo and behold, the only one on there that is charting from Disney Plus is Bluey, and it's also not charting, as you can see, on Samba TV. The winner of that one on Samba TV was The Last of Us Series 2. So let's just round off this video now and see what you lot said when I asked you. And then, of course, we'll check out Rotten Tomatoes very quickly. These are just a select few of the comments, but let's take a look. It was Dr. Light, so that's only going to make the episode better. I actually enjoyed this episode a lot. A very interesting, quote-unquote, threat to UNIT. A thumbs up from me. Okay, fair enough. This would have been a great story for last season. Yeah, I get what you're saying there, but kind of stale. Ruby needs the dimensions this episode gave her, but she needed them before she left the main cast. 4 out of 10. I do understand what you mean with that, because I felt like the relationship between her and the Doctor was very forced. Yeah, I don't think they had much time to build on that. This person says, well, what the hell did I just watch? It wasn't Doctor Who. Well, not the Doctor Who I watched from 1971 to 2017. I'd give it a 1 for the monster. I won't waste my spit on the rest of the episode. Wow, you definitely didn't like it. Yeah, I wanted the elaboration more on the monster, and I even suggested on the Sense Sphere that if we were going to get the Autons, why couldn't the Autons be working for this monster? You know, just saying. Oh, I hate to say it because I don't like them. I'm terrified of them. Anyway, is Conrad the most stupid person to have ever existed? Oh, and poor enough CGI for the money. Not impressed. Fair enough. That's an opinion. You're allowed that opinion. I thought Conrad is a very, very good character. I really enjoyed his character, but yeah, he wasn't too bright. He wasn't the brightest spark plug in the box. Let's just put it like that. Now, I went to Rotten Tomatoes. There's some really positive views here. There's not all of them. It's just some of them. So far, one of the best and most entertaining series of all New Who. This season has been absolute fire so far. Last season struggled a bit, but this season is peak Doctor Who. Reminds me of David Tennant's time as the Doctor. Confuse me. I don't see any comparison with the David Tennant Doctor. Sorry, I just don't. Russell T Davies is back on proper form. Yeah, it's debatable. It's debatable. It was just Midnight 2.0 essentially. So this person says, I'm a long-time fan, and I really struggled during the Chibnall era due to the lack of freshness, spark, and personality. As others have said before, Doctor Who is back, baby, and it's truly finally completely back to being itself, vibrant, powerful, moving, with the handbrake finally off. And I don't have the rest of that comment expanded, but you get the gist. Anyone that has reviewed this a 1 star, please ignore them. And I would say, don't ignore them. I think it's very, very wrong to tell people to ignore opposing sides of the opinion. It's good to listen to everyone. If I didn't listen to everyone, these comments would not be featured. If I wanted just the negative ones, I would take it. But I didn't. So anyway, it goes on to say, I'm a huge Doctor Who, fan of Doctor Who, and I'll admit it dropped off hugely after 12 and Clara, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm not keen on Clara, but anyway. But it's back, baby. Exciting, fun, dark. I would agree that it's darker, fast. Storylines are on point. If you've stopped watching over the last few years, this is the season to jump back in. Well, I know a few people I'd like to ask that question to. I bet you they wouldn't. I'm writing this 4 episodes in. I cannot wait for the next one. It's been so long since I felt this way. Yay. Well, I'm glad you're energized. I'm glad that there are people who like what's going on with it. And this last person says, absolutely love it. It is fantastic. Okay, so that's what they said. Well, I would say that this series is not the best I've seen. Definitely not. I like the darker content for sure, but still, it's a stretch. It's a real reach now. I feel like I'm grasping at straws here. I would say these ratings are abysmal. I really think that they need to be pushing, as I said before, the 5 million plus, not consistently below 4. However, let me know what you think. Chat about it, don't shout about it. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Healthy debate in the chat, please. Switch on the notification bell so that you know I am releasing another video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.